And that was Mandy Lion with Lord of This World. And with us today is Mandy Lion himself.
Woo-hoo.
Welcome to the show, man.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so before we begin, we always start off the show with an experience that one of us has had. Who goes this time?
I think I went first, so you can go first this time.
Let me talk about my experience that I've been going through, and that's just recently. I've been having a bad hair day, which is why I'm wearing this hat today. So I used to be a hat person all the time, and then finally I decided to start cutting my own hair. Started cutting my own hair, and then found out a good, haircut that I liked. And the haircut was able to support just me not having a hat. But there are times, though, when I'm, and especially like weather, like when it rains and stuff, where my hair just is out of control and I can't control it. I try to put like conditioner and the right amount of shampoo, and it just doesn't work. So today, and it's a rarity when at a show that I wear a hat.
Right, that's true.
So today I was just like, I couldn't do anything with it. So I was like, oh, screw it, I'm just going to wear a hat. So I've been dealing with those kind of hair issues.
Well, I don't even want to talk about hair issues because, you see my hair. That's why I'm the hair.
Yeah.
I'm Tortoise in the Hare experience. And this is all natural.
Right.
I usually straighten my hair.
Right.
But it's so crazy that I
think it looks perfect like that. Why would you straighten it?
Well, no. It's a different look. I look more tame, because I'm a Leo.
Right.
You're a lion, I'm a Leo. And I have big hair. I have huge hair. It's big. But I've seen you in a hat quite often.
I love hats. I mean, even as a kid, I just never felt that a man is dressed 100%, if you're not wearing a hat. I know that's like a really old school mentality, but I just love them. I have them in all sizes. I mean, I have hats that literally, it's a fine line between having a big hat and being a mushroom. And I think sometimes, I cross that line.
That's funny.
Do you have a favorite hat?
Yeah, I mean, I have like 5 of these, so this is my favorite, because it's not too big and it's like an everyday hat. But then, like I said, I also have that big mushroom hat, which I love. Mm-hmm. Top hats, love top hats.
Yeah, I like hats too. I'm good with hats. I like to wear them. I can't wear them on air because they're just too big for me and the mic and my little face, and so. But I do sport a hat every once in a while. I like it. I think they're very sexy and very becoming for you because your whole style is just mad sexy. It's so hot.
See, this is why the hat is good, because I'm blushing right now.
Can't tell.
You can't see it.
Max, would you like to share your experience?
I've had a couple of crazy experiences lately. Cinco de Mayo just happened, which was on Sunday.
Cinco de Drinko, as I call it.
Cinco de Drinko, which is very true. And as most of our listeners know, I manage a couple of bands, 5 bands actually, but one of my bands had 2 shows on the same day. So they were playing at the House of Blues in Anaheim at Disney. Have you been there?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and a really nice venue.
It is.
So they were there at 6 o'clock, and then at 10 o'clock, they were at the Viper Room.
Right.
So we were running all around, and I'm not a drinker, so I don't, I didn't really participate in that, even though the band bought one of those tables with the bottles and the whole deal, and how that happens, and when we got to the Viper Room, we have the table set up, and there's the bucket of tequila.
Awesome.
And the piñatas that were shaped like Yoda, which I'm a big nerd, so Yoda's my god. And so all these girls start coming around.
Of course, free booze. You're going to get hot chicks.
Well,
that's just like
what you're
cool.
going to get.
When you mix, I really took notice of this. When you mix hot girls, tequila, and piñatas,
It's a good time.
all hell breaks loose.
You think?
It was really
Does this surprise you?
Yeah, it was really fun. Downtown Attraction, which is my band, we played a great show and good turnout. But it was crazy. All these this one girl in particular was sitting in the booth. The piñata broke. She leaped over the booth completely leaped over the booth, like, you know, scaling a mountain is what she was doing. Because she just jumped right over and just dove into that candy. And the piñata was provided, I believe, by Pleasure Chest.
Right.
You know, Pleasure
So
Chest.
what was in it?
So it's
good
not so
times.
much
Not candy.
Yeah, well, there were edibles, that's for sure.
Edible underwear.
There's all sorts
Yeah,
of
but you know what? Depends on who's wearing it. All underwear is edible
Yeah.
underwear.
Yeah, right? Right. Yeah, some of those you know you don't want to have any sort of experience with that. You know, you got the wrong person with an edible item on. No, I'm not.
If I can, you know, I'm not really freaky or anything like that, but that's kind of been one of my fantasies is for like a hot chick to be wearing like edible underwear. You know, preferably grape. I like grape. It's one of my favorite flavors. No.
Sure.
I think that'd be cool. But I think maybe, I don't know, maybe edible underwear is one of those things that is in theory, you know, and in the mind is great, but when you actually put it to actual use, it's probably painstaking.
No, actually, I actually feel that, like I said, if you're really into somebody, then all underwear is edible underwear.
Yeah,
It doesn't
there you
even
go.
matter,
That's
you know.
that's my kind of man right there.
Very nice.
So what's your favorite flavor?
Underwear, you mean?
Just in general.
Just in general.
Believe it or
what's
not,
your favorite
vanilla. I know that sounds really boring, but I love vanilla, like vanilla ice cream, vanilla coffee.
I'm
Love
wearing vanilla perfume. Just saying.
It's interesting because vanilla is white, but yet you're all in black.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe I need that balance. You know, that's where the vanilla comes in.
Very nice. I see that you're wearing nothing but lions. Is that like your thing? Do you ever not wear lions?
No, I mean, I just, I think it's one of the most amazing creatures on this earth, you know, and it's a coincidence that my name is spelled that way, but I just love them, you know, because it's the only cat on earth that acts like dogs, which dogs are my greatest passion in the world. And it's a really, you know, it's a sign of power. It's you know, they're just amazing creatures. I'm a big fan, so ever since I was a kid, I collected everything lions. Rings, necklaces. This thing is actually 500 years old.
That's really cool. Tell me more about it. Being 500 years old, it must have lived a life. Did it belong to a pharaoh or?
Supposedly it belonged to Vlad the Impaler at one.
No way. That's cool.
How did it come to you?
It's actually my old manager, David Arden, which is the son of Don Arden. I don't know if you remember.
Sure.
Don Arden was a great man, and he always, I mean, when he gets me a gift, it's something special, you know. And he like from nice watches to, you know, that kind of. I mean, this is one that I got from him as well.
Nice.
And
I just want my bands to know that there will be no gifts. So I'm just telling them.
there'll be no what?
No gifts. You know, your managers, you know, they hook you up really big. My bands are not getting that kind of style.
Why
not
not?
gonna happen.
Well, I mean, why don't you? I mean, if is that the thing with managers? Are they supposed to not shower you with gifts, but aren't they supposed to, you know, hook you up every now and then, saying, "Hey, thanks for picking me," you know, and thanks for letting me manage you, type thing?
Really?
I don't know. I've never had a manager. I just, you know, I manage myself and I give myself gifts, you know.
I don't know. I've had managers my whole life, you know.
And you've never received anything from them?
Yeah, flowers.
Well, see, I mean, you don't have to go outlandish and buy something that Vlad the Impaler had or anything like
That's
that.
pretty cool. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah.
I noticed that you were saying that you collect watches, and I noticed that you're a big fan of the watch, and you have a pretty extensive collection about watches. What is it? I'm afraid of watches, and I'll tell you why. Because they keep track of time.
Right.
And for me, that's scary. I fear time because time expires for people. You know, I know time is never ending, but for the most part, I don't want to know what day it is. I have a real bad problem of not knowing what days are.
Right.
You know, or just maybe even the actual, you know, date. You know, like even with my family, I know their birthdays, but I don't know how old they are because I don't want to know how old they are.
Right.
I'm really weird like that. Tell me about your
Well,
your time?
I guess I love watches not so much for what they do. I just love, when the magical part to me is what's on the inside. Especially when you're looking at a high-end luxury watch like an Audemars Piguet or Patek Philippe. Those are watches made by hand, by an artist, really. And you have to understand that some of these watches took a year out of a man's life, so there's a lot of life force that went into that. It's not like a Rolex, which is mass produced. Rolex is actually a pseudo luxury brand. I'm a bit of a watch snob. I would never wear one. But like I said, these really high-end luxury watches like Patek Philippe, Jaeger-LeCoultre, and Hublot at this point too, they've worked their way up. I mean, they're just magical pieces that a lot of, and they're alive. They have a little beating heart. In fact, sometimes you have like an open heart. It's called an open heart, where you see the escapement, and it's very much like a heartbeat. They're alive. If you wear them, like especially an automatic one, just wearing them, it winds them, and if you put them away, they stop. They die. So it's I just love them. They're magical to me.
I noticed that you're really into martial arts as well. Are you still into martial arts? And can you like break bricks and stuff? Or
martial arts to me is a way of life. I was in martial arts classes, and I was into mixed martial arts before there was a name for it. I mean, my first martial arts class was when I was like 5 years old, and I was Shotokan, which is a Japanese karate style. I don't go around fighting, like a lot of people think when you're into that, you go around beating people up. But it's more of a mindset, It's about discipline. It's about inner peace, and it's a way of life, really.
do you?
Especially if you've been taught by an older sensei like I have. One of my teachers back in the day that used to come to, when I was still living in Germany, it was a place called Budo Club. And Masatoshi Nakayama used to teach there. You'd fly in for a month. And if you look him up, he's probably the father of Shotokan, really,
Very much.
Do you use all that in your music as far as with peace and discipline?
Well, I think it kind of probably does show in my music, like where a lot of guys, especially nowadays, metal is all about aggression. You have a guy burping in the front, and you got a bunch of, usually they have technically good players, but, you have this guy like that's just so, veins popping, and, that to me, that's a bar brawler. But, to me, if you would sing like a martial artist, then you have that power with a smile on your face. You should be able to hit every note with control, vibrato. No matter how extreme, no matter how rough you get, there should always be a certain amount of control, because that's real power.
True. And you've played with some of the greatest rock legends in history. George Lynch being one of them, a friend of mine, and I know that you're working with Jimmy Bain, who's everybody knows Jimmy Bain. He's such a sweetheart.
I agree.
Great player, and but your voice and your style stands out from all of the others. Because we've been around the rock scene quite a long time, and good friends with a lot of the people, and I've toured with many of the people, and whenever somebody talks about the greatest vocalist and performers, your name always comes up.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah, it's true. You sell out the clubs everywhere, and people are just always on edge, waiting for what's next. So what is next?
We got a lot of good stuff cooking. Like I was telling you earlier, I mean, we're about to give the new single, actually, to Team Rousey, which is Ronda Rousey's entourage. That they're she's going to use it on her website. She's going to use it in any which way she wants. In fact, if possibly maybe Dana would be okay with it, she could use it as an entrance music or whatever. She can do with it whatever she wants, because She's an amazing woman. I mean, she's writing history right now as we speak. We're also putting a tour together because I made a mistake a while back. I stopped touring. And should have never done that, because when you stop touring, then that means you have a lot of repair work to do.
Right.
So we're about to do that. We're about to go back out and start touring on a regular basis.
Why'd you stop touring?
Well, because at some point, especially when the MySpace thing was still going really strong, I was making a lot of money selling my merchandise. Mandy line underwear, shirts, and
Were they edible?
You really had a, yeah.
all edible.
And great.
And I just, at some point, I realized I could make a lot more money, in front of my computer, conversing with the fans for the first time ever, really, rather than being out there slugging it out. And that was really dumb on my part, because I missed it the entire time. And when you stop touring, then what happens is venues stop, because you can't really tell them like what you're going to bring, how much money you're going to make for them. So it gets in. I'm in an iffy situation right now. So and the problem is too that I usually show up with an all-star lineup, and if I do, that means I need top dollar, but I can't really demand top dollar because if I haven't been in any given market, I can't exactly tell them how many people I'm going to bring. So.
Right. But, your numbers don't lie. You always sell out. You always have a huge crowd, especially in Los Angeles. It's,
Well, I mean, we do well, but like I said, it depends on what kind of a lineup you have. There is a certain amount of money you need to make because all these people are, they make a lot of money just sitting around, so, and you don't make any money, selling CDs anymore. It's all about really live shows and merchandise today.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. Do you do the iTunes and all of that? Are you selling downloads of your songs?
Well, actually, what I have been doing, even before it was fashionable, I started giving away the music. Because I just kind of believe, if somebody is broke already, everybody's working hard. There's a lot of people, a lot of fans, especially like metal fans. It's not like they're known to be, to have a lot of money. Those are real people, that work real hard for their money. And if a fan sends me an email and he says, can you send me your stuff, then I'll send it to him. And I'm even thinking about making the new single just uploadable for free, or downloadable, I should say.
Right.
Uploadable.
No, but that's really cool, only because you're investing in your fans, and a lot of people, instead of, they want to take from their fans, you're doing the exact opposite, which is you're rewarding your fans, and that's very cool. I like that.
Well, I mean, look at me. I mean, I couldn't do anything else. These people have allowed me to be the weirdo that I am. And have supported me my entire life. So if I can send them a free song or a free album or whatever, I mean, I should do that. It makes me angry when people don't appreciate the people that made them. Sometimes when I meet a fan and they shake my hand, they're like, "I'm really honored to meet you." I'm like, "No, I'm honored to meet you. Because you're the important part. I'm replaceable, but the fans aren't."
You touched on something that resonated with me right now, which you called yourself a weirdo, and I've been kind of dealing with this myself personally. Not where I think I'm a weirdo, but I don't know how to deal with anything outside of a studio, or when I'm out in the world, out just and I'm not at work and I'm just a person. I kind of feel like I don't belong in society, even though like there's nothing about me that says I'm weird. Sometimes I just say the wrong things. I just feel uncomfortable, around people. Do you feel that same way? And
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How are you working around that? Because I could use the help.
Well, actually, just being this weird all my life. I mean, I never had any friends in school, and I just always, up until a certain age, I just always thought, there was something really wrong with me. And the first time I was accepted, because as soon as you set foot on a stage, the weirdness works.
Right.
So ever since that moment, it really was for me like coming home. I mean, being on stage, I'm probably at my most real. Where most people say, on stage I have this persona. If anything, I'm toning it down, and I'm playing a role more in real life than I do on stage. On stage, I really feel like this is me, because that's the place where anything you have, any weirdness you might have, can be accepted if you sell it well.
That's
Very
true.
nice.
There's so many people in the music industry who are, they dress up and they do the part on stage, and off stage they are so, unauthentic.
Right.
They just aren't living rock and roll.
Right.
And you truly embody that. This is 24 hours a day for you, and you are who you are.
Right.
And the freak is, the fashion, and the freak is, the feature on stage, and we appreciate that. I can't stand going to a show and seeing them like all glammed up, and then meeting them in another place and having them be like, just this like little wormy guy, and it's like, it's so disappointing. And so when the stars are really authentic and do it all the way, I really appreciate it.
And that's actually the advice I always give young guys starting out. Like, don't ever pretend to be anything you're not, because just like you were saying, even as a kid, I remember the first time I saw Eddie Van Halen. I actually, while I was still living in Germany, I saw Eddie Van Halen in the wild, so to speak, not on stage, and I'm like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the guy that I saw, this wild thing on stage? And I was really, and I love Van Halen, don't get me wrong, but it was disappointing to me as a kid. And yeah, you should never be anything, whatever it is you are, however weird that is, or however normal that may be it.
Right. Embrace it. So Turtle, you can't be afraid in regular society, away from the mic and the studios and the lights.
But I can control this. That's what I like. I like, I'm not this major control freak, but I like controlling, kind of things around me and stuff like that. When I'm outside of that, there's just this uncontrollable quality of just randomness, and I don't like that. It's jarring to me.
Well, you have to embrace that. My other practice is that I'm a holistic practitioner.
Mm-hmm.
So I work every day with different people and getting over their blocks and their fears.
Mm-hmm.
Because when we live in fear, it does nothing for you.
That's right.
So if you are yourself and truly and authentically and living in your moment and in your center, then all of that fear just washes away. And
That's
you're
true.
just you, and you just shine. And I've been with you many, many times in public settings, and
But they're not really public settings.
well,
You know
no,
what I
but
mean?
they're
They're
outings in clubs, and where there's other people where you're not actually the one on stage or performing, and you handle yourself just fine. It's
But
all
I'm
the
usually-
fear is just
But
in
I'm
your
usually
head.
all the way at the back. You know what I mean?
He's got to stop that. Got to stop that.
What you gotta do is what I've learned really early on. If there's anything that scares you, do it and do it and do it until you're not afraid of it anymore.
That's right.
Okay.
That's good advice.
Fine, I'll do it.
All right.
Fine.
Yay, accomplishment.
Yeah, but you know what? I will say this. I have been working on it. Just recently, a band invited me to go shoot them. Not, but do some photography with them. And they're like, dude, we're gonna get you a photo pass. And it was at the House of Blues in L.A. Like, we're gonna get you a photo pass. We're even gonna get you in for free. So I was just like, oh man. And usually I don't like to go out. I don't like to, I really do sequester myself. I don't know why. I think I like being at home, and I like, just kind of being alone. So I told myself, I said, you know what? Part of your first step is to kind of go out there, and be yourself. So I went out there and I was myself, and it was just really awkward because when people would ask who I was, I'm like, oh, I'm Turtle with Another Shell, and then they'd be like, who, or whatever, and they're like, why are you Turtle? What's your real name? And I'm like, well, you can't just accept this,
This is who I am. I am Turtle.
Yeah.
Hear me
turtle. Hear me snap. I don't know.
Hear me snap.
Well, and you can't expect people to react the way you want them to. I mean, you can't imagine, how much, how much crap I get for the way I dress, and for what I do, and there's either people that love what I do or they really hate what I do, and as soon as you put yourself out there, that is part of it. But just know, if you're even rubbing somebody the wrong way, that means you're powerful.
Really?
If you can't affect their life, and this is what these people don't realize, is even if they're just going off and trying to put you down, obviously just your existence has affected them in some kind of a way, and they're actually admitting that you have something going on. Remember, Don Arden always said, if you have no enemies, you got nothing. The stronger you are, the more enemies you're going to have.
That's right. And, enemies is an interesting, I think that should be our word for the day. Well, our next guest is from Goodfellas. And
he's out there in the green room.
Yeah, and, so we'll talk about the idea of enemy. And I can't imagine that you would have any enemies.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're so lovable. I mean, you really are. You are one of the kindest people that I have been in the pleasure of being in their company. You do so much for charity, and you take no credit for it, and you just do it. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Everybody needs to take note on that and, fall in line. MySpace is still a viable, social media.
It is, and I'll tell you why. A lot of bands that I interview, when I ask them about MySpace or how they met a certain person that they collaborated, it's always MySpace. They always say, you know what, I rarely check my MySpace, but every now and then I log on and I'll always have a message.
Right.
So it's still good.
Because you can still play your music on there, and that's what they're lagging with on Facebook. Facebook is just for speaking and sharing pictures.
Right.
Other than that, it's worthless. So
well, and I've been saying this for a long time, and that is that Justin Timberlake now owns MySpace. He's owned it for quite some time. So and so now I'm even more interested as to what he's gonna do with it. Although I know he has a new album and a new tour that he's doing with, so maybe he kind of put MySpace on the back burner. But that should still be in everybody's head right now, because Justin Timberlake, he kind of knows what he's doing.
yeah,
I would say.
he's not bad.
I've actually become a fan of his when I saw Bad Teacher. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. Because I've never really been a fan of him, but then I saw him. And he was brilliant in that movie. I mean, remember that scene where they're dry humping?
Yeah, him and Cameron Diaz, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Justin Timberlake, or JT as I call him. Maybe you could call him JT too. Anytime he's on Saturday Night Live, that's when he really shines to me, because I like that he can make fun of himself.
Right.
To me that shows how comfortable he is in his own skin.
Absolutely.
The Beyonce thing that they did.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that? Oh my!
And he was in
Lord.
those tights.
That was the funniest episode I've ever seen.
I think I saw that where he did all the single ladies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I was on
With
the
a
floor
straight
laughing.
face, no less.
Like a pro.
Well, he's been doing it, forever. Like me, we grew up in that crazy like Disney-esque world, as children. What age did you start at? What age did you start singing at?
I started at 11.
11.
And it really was just like I said.
By 13, you were already in, crazy big bands.
Well, I wouldn't say crazy big bands. I mean, at that time, I was living in Germany at that time, and there were really only 3 bands that were doing anything. And the biggest being the Scorpions, second biggest being Accept, and the third biggest was us. And I mean, at that time, it was more than it is today. It's just my voice never really fit. Because if you think of how metal was sung back then, nobody sang in that register. No, it was more of a high-pitched, screaming kind of voice. Your typical metal voice. So, I always had people, like you were saying earlier about enemies. It's not really that I have enemies that where there's any merit to it. It's just there are some people who genuinely hate me. You know, I mean, it's just for singing, and that's never changed. You know, and I guess, like Lemmy always says, that's a sign that you're doing some good rock and roll. You know, if you can split people in two camps, you know, the ones that love you and the ones that hate you, that's a good thing.
Right. Yeah.
Once everybody thinks you're all right, you know, then you're done. You know.
World acceptance finished.
Done. I was gonna say this. I was on your Facebook, which I really enjoyed, because you really, you know, going back to the earlier segment, you really do touch your fans. I was reading a few entries that you wrote, and one of them was about how one of your fans sent you a letter, and you were talking. What were you talking about? There was a few, because I started getting engrossed in all your writings, because you're such a great writer.
Thank you.
And you write a lot. That's the thing. It was just like, because I'm so used to people on Facebook, when they write about a paragraph, but you write entire, you know, essays.
Right.
You know, and I think it was on Rise. A fan wrote you about Rise, and you were saying that. You were saying it's all coming back to me.
It's all coming.
I need to
Positive thinking.
Yeah, thank you. There you go.
Right.
That there's two people in life. That there are positive people and negative people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I thought that was extremely interesting. If you could just reiterate what you said about that.
Well, yeah. It's just I've met a lot of people in my life, you know, and I observe, you know, like, you know, I try to learn from everybody I meet, good or bad. And I noticed that people who are successful, and like I was saying, you know, I don't think success is money or fame or anything like that. Success is being happy, confident, you know, with where you're at in your life. And I noticed all of those people, you know, when you speak to them, there is no negativity. They tell you about what they've done, what they're doing currently, what they plan on doing. You know, they're up, they're strong, they're positive. And the people who are unsuccessful, so to speak, you know, they will tell you about all the things they wish they could have done, all the things that didn't happen, and then that guy screwed me over, and I was almost there, and then that happened. And I noticed that, obviously, I mean, I don't know if you're into quantum physics, and you know, if you understand how much your thoughts create your environment, so to speak. I realized, I mean, in a real life setting, that these people are creating their own reality. You know, if you're always complaining, if you're always worrying, if you're always scared, if you're always this, that, and the other thing, you will never get out of that. But if you're fearless, and if you believe, and if you know, then you really are the architect of your own life. And you have to, it sounds easy, but it's really hard. You know, the hardest thing is to stay positive under pressure. But once you develop that within you, there's really nothing you can't do.
That's very true.
Yeah.
That's very true. In my practice, you know, I do that every day, is counseling people through that. And like we were talking earlier about your fear, you know, when you have that fear of the unknown and the fear of the imbalance, then you live your life in a negative way. If you embrace the everyday and the challenges and look at them as a positive, as a learning experience,
That's
as
it.
a moment in your journey, then
That's
it's
it.
all going to be okay.
That's
and
it.
you know, that word okay frightens people. You know, everybody thinks that we're running and that we're out of time. And you know, when you were talking earlier about, which was really interesting, about not having enough time and, you know, being afraid of the watch.
Right.
That's very telling. And you know, your fear with being in public and, you know, how to respond to people, also very telling in your path, in your journey, and it's all fear-based. And when you let all of that go, then everything is beautiful. and truly is. You look at things in a different way.
That's right.
And, you know, when you listen to music, you listen, you know, not at the harsh notes, but at the message behind it. You'll find this incredible beauty. And, you know, and if everybody could do that and, you know, not judge
That's right.
something like, you know, Marilyn Manson is a friend of mine, and he talks about that a lot, how people constantly judge him. But if you look underneath that,
That's it.
there's just pure beauty there.
That's it.
You know?
I agree with you.
Wow.
And you know, there really isn't anything to be afraid of. I mean, what's the worst thing that could happen is death, and death is really nothing. Really, once you understand that, you know, I often hear people say, you know, I at one point in their life they had a spiritual experience, and I'm thinking, that's not really true. We're not humans having spiritual experiences. We're spirits having the human experience. You know, you're eternal, and this is just one little.
Right.
You know, there's nothing to be afraid of, is what I'm trying to say. You know, you are as old as Earth and everything else.
Very nice. Very well said. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Did you enjoy this experience?
Absolutely. I want to stay.
Yeah, man.
Well, you're welcome to. You know?
welcome.
I'm sure Chris will, you know, he'd love to have you.
Right.
I'll be the phantom of the studio.
That'd be cool. That'd be very cool. We really appreciate that. I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna hear, because we talked about Rise, and you know. So let's hear that song. We're going to hear Rise.
Okay.
And then for you listening, log on to mandyliononline.com, and then I'll have links to the Facebook and to all the other social media sites. And I highly suggest that you become a fan or friend or like whatever they call it on Facebook with Mandy Lion, because like I said, I really enjoy your blogs and your writing.
Thank you.
And, you know, if I can make one suggestion, that suggestion would be, if you can, to compile all those and put them in a book, whether it's an ebook or something, because it's really cool, and it really helped me. You know, like I said, that was why the conversation sparked about everything else, was because I was reading that, and the positive and the negative and things like that. So I think that could really help other people that may not even be fans of yours, that may not even know who you are. You could probably do really well as a writer.
Maybe I'll just do that.
Please do. Hope you do.
Words of wisdom from Turtle.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So log on to mandyliononline.com.